Time for convening having arrived. The Senate will come to order. Would ask unauthorized visitors to exit chamber at this time. The Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes Senator from the 53rd.
Good morning, Mr. President. Here on the 21st legislative day, the journal has been read and found to be correct.
Thank you, Senator, for your good works on the journal. Is there objection dispensing with the reading of the journal? The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 185 by Senator Stone of the 23rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 9 of Title 11 of the OCGA relating to secured transactions so as to modernize the article, to change and provide for definitions, to amend Code Section 33-10-1 of the OCGA relating to assets considered in determining financial condition of insurers, generally so as to correct a cross-reference, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting
Judiciary.
laws. Senate Bill 186 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 187 by Senator Hill of the 32nd. A bill
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 188 by Senators Loudermilk of the 14th
Judiciary
and others.
non-civil.
Senate Bill 189 by Senators Miller of the 40th and others. A bill-
Education Committee.
Senate Bill 190 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others. A bill-
Finance.
Senate Resolution 267 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd. A resolution urging the United States.
Natural Resources.
Senate Resolution 273 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others.
Slogo General.
Senate Resolution 277 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution. so as to
Finance
provide-
Committee.
Through with the order, Mr. President.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions.
House Bill 122 by Representatives Tanner of the 9th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 42-1-14 of the OCGA relating to risk assessment classification, classification as sexually dangerous predator, and electronic monitoring of sexual offenders. Code Section 42-9-53 relating to preservation of documents, classification of information and documents, divulgence of confidential state secrets, and conduct of hearings. And Code Section 35-3-4 relating to powers and duties of the Georgia Bureau.
Judy non-civil.
House Bill 160 by Representative Jacobs.
Judiciary.
House Bill 178 by Representatives Weldon of the 3rd and others.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 208 by Representatives Watson of the 166th.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 209 by Representatives Watson of the 166th and others.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 235 by Representatives Earhart of the 36th and others. A bill to be entitled an
Health
act.
and Human Services.
Through with the order, Mr. President.
Clerk will read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that House Bill 101 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Wilkinson of the 50th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Appropriations Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that House Bill 105 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hill of the 4th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Economic Development Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that Senate Bill 137 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ginn of the 47th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Health and Human Services Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that Senate Bill 94 do pass, that Senate Bill 128 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Unterman of the 45th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Higher Education Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that Senate Bill 82 do pass by substitute, that Senate Bill 103 do pass, that Senate Bill 155 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowsert of the 46th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that Senate Bill 105 do pass by substitute, that Senate Bill 125 do pass by substitute, that House Resolution 4 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator McCune of the 29th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary and Non-Civil Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that Senate Bill 120 do pass by substitute, that Senate Bill 134 do pass, that Senate Bill 135 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Stone of the 23rd, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Regulated Industries and Utilities Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that Senate Bill 61 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Murphy of the 27th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Retirement Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that Senate Bill 142 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Miller of the 40th. Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate State and Local Governmental Operations Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that House Bill 201 do pass, that House Bill 204 do pass, that House Bill 273 do pass, that House Bill 278 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ligna III, Chairman. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will read second readers.
Senate Bill 70 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others. Transportation Department, change type of projects eligible for design, build, contracts, and procurement process. Senate Bill 72 by Senator Stone of the 23rd and others. Taxation, rate of interest to paid for refunds and on past due taxes, provisions. Senate Bill 100 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th and others. Career and Technical Education Advisory Commission, reestablish membership. Senate Bill 122 by Senator Hill of the 6th and others. Driver's licenses. Authorize the issuance of temporary driving permit non-citizen applicant whose license has expired. Filed extension. Senate Resolution 72 by Senator Hill of the 32nd and others. Senate State Fair Tax Study Committee. Create. Senate Resolution 73 by Senator James of the 35th. Takai Amonrosi Memorial Bridge, Fulton County. Dedicate. Senate Resolution 96 by Senator Golden of the 8th. Governor Melvin Ernest Thompson Memorial Highway, Lowndes County. Dedicate. Through with the order, Mr. President.
It's now time for our morning roll call. Are there motions to excuse? Chair recognizes Senator from the 56th with his able assistant by his side this morning.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm actually his assistant. Unless he walks in behind me, I'd ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 40th for business inside the Capitol.
40th, without objection, the distinguished senator from the 40th will be excused. Are there any other motions to excuse? Yes, indeed. Senator from the 42nd will be recognized. 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 22nd who's away from the Capitol.
22nd, without objection. Senator from the 22nd will be excused. Any other motions? Chair recognizes distinguished senator from the coast, senator from the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to excuse the senator from the 1st.
First,
Should be
another colleague from the coast, but he happens to be present right there, sneaking out in the side ante door, ready to cast a vote, day or night. Any other motions? Senators, please signify your presence by voting the A switch. The secretary will unlock the machine.
That's the only one I know. You get the That's good. All present in the
Okay, it's now time for our morning devotion. Our morning devotion. Would ask those that are looking to exit the chamber do so at this time. You are in for a real treat today. with our pastor of the day, and it's a great honor to have him. Would like for senators to please take your seats and cease conversation at this time. Doorkeepers, secure the chamber at this time. It's now my distinct honor and privilege to call upon the distinguished senator from the 6th to introduce or lead us in our pledge, introduce our chaplain of the day. Senator.
Please join us in our pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now our state flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Good morning. I'm pleased this morning to introduce a very special friend and guest, but prior to doing that, I would like to honor the people up here in the gallery, specifically Teen Pact, for the great work they do. These are young people getting engaged in politics at a very young age, which is very important for our state and our nation, so I hope we can give them a warm welcome. Today we are blessed to have Dr. Michael Youssef deliver our devotion of the day. I have known Dr. Youssef since 1992 when I was honored to travel to Israel with a group of friends who were attending his 5-year-old church. Dr. Youssef, as our pastor, was there with his whole family. Before Dr. Youssef was born in Egypt in 1958, his mother was told by her pastor that he would be, quote, born to serve the Lord. That was important information to a woman who had been advised to abort the pregnancy by her doctor due to her poor health at the time. Obviously, his mother decided to trust her pastor, and it was a great testimony for his mother to see her son surrender his life to the Lord prior to her passing. Michael left Egypt to attend Moore Theological College in Sydney, Australia. He met his lovely wife Elizabeth there and was ordained as a minister. The Youssefs came to America in 1977, and in 1978, Michael received a master's degree in theology at Fuller Theological Seminary in California, and later a doctorate in social anthropology from Emory University. He served for 10 years at the Haggai Institute, which is a wonderful organization that teaches and mentors indigenous Christian leaders to evangelize their own countries. In 1984, Michael became a United States citizen. In 1987, he founded the Church of the Apostles. 40 people met in the Waverly Hotel in Cobb County on that first service. Today, Church of the Apostles has over 3,000 members, and the international ministry leading the way, which is broadcast in 20 different languages to over 200 countries. Please give a warm Senate welcome to my friend, mentor, and pastor, Dr. Michael Youssef.
I want to thank Senator Hunter Hill for his warm welcome. Lieutenant Governor, good to see you again. And it's good to see so many of you. Last time I came here, I was 45 years old. Now I'm 65, so next time I'll be here, I'll be 85. I want to just share with you some thoughts before I lead in prayer. I've been warned that there is some sort of a trap door right here that if I go over 5 minutes, I'll go down that trap door, but I might go a little bit just over. And my thoughts come to you from a book that will be published very soon called The Leadership Style of Jesus. And I could not think of a better title for a book like this, because whichever way you look at power, it really is only two ways to see it. There are varieties of those two ways, but there's only two ways to view power. Either the Jesus' way or the Machiavellian way. The Machiavellian way is really what is much dominates our culture, sadly enough. It's a style that has been accepted and practiced in business and in other affairs in government. Machiavellian, of course, he lived for 1400 years after Christ. He was there between 1469 and 1527. In his book, The Prince, he advocated that leaders pursue power, use power to their own advantage. And contrast that with what Jesus said about power, that it is to be used to help others. Now, Machiavelli has devoted and insisted that a person must maintain power at any cost. But Jesus said it is only in serving of others and loving of others that one can really have real power. Machiavelli said that a leader, if he has to, should use force, deception, coercion, manipulation, even elimination of your rival to stay in power. But Jesus taught greatness in leadership comes from the placing of God and others ahead of ourselves. Throughout history, many leaders who followed the Machiavellian style brought disaster and distress and destruction. Hitler and Mussolini, just to mention a few. But those who followed the example of the leadership style of Jesus have brought a great deal of blessings everywhere they went. If you look back, you find that the library movement, the hospital movement, the orphanage movement, so many of those movements that had taken place as a result of people following the leadership style of Jesus. One of those people is one of my great heroes. I have a number of them, but he is one of the heroes that I hold at the highest esteem, a man by the name of William Wilberforce. Now, just think about this. You debate and discuss and get bills through. He worked on one bill for 23 years in the House of Commons. 23 years. And he worked tirelessly, not to retain power, but to give power to the powerless and end one of the darkest blights on humanity. In fact, the Bible tells us about two brothers that followed Jesus, two of the 12 disciples. And one wanted to be a prime minister, and the other wanted to be the chancellor of the exchequer, just to use British terminology. But after all, they thought Jesus is going to be king, an earthly king, is going to have power, so he got one on the right and one on the left. But Jesus, as he told Pontius Pilate, he said, "My kingdom is not of this world." When those two brothers asked for places of power, the other 10 disciples got their noses out of joint because they wanted power too. You see, that is human nature. And so Jesus tells all of them that the pagans are the ones who seek power to lord it over people, but you are to serve. Whoever want to be great among you need to be the servant of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. Now, I'm sure in a diverse group as this, and you may have different views about the Founding Fathers. Whatever your view about the Founding Fathers of this great nation, they knew one thing. They understood human nature. They understood human depravity. They understood the proclivity toward seeking one's own interest. They understood the danger of power, so they created a system whereby all of those like you in these halls of power are servants of the people. And that is why they would not have a House of Lords. I know it's easy to forget that you are servants of the people, or maybe even easier to remember around campaign time, election time, but it's something that you need to remember every single day as you walk through these mahogany doors. Because the moment you forget that you are the servants of the people, it begins to bring about personal tragedy, not just for you, but for others. But without taking too much time, I want to, we're not expanding, but give you the five power plays that you see in the Machiavellian style. Manipulation, guilting or shaming, intimidation, ridicule, emotional appeal. All of those are designed to hide the truth. But as Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Shall we pray together? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for your gracious mercy and blessing and grace upon these United States and upon the state of Georgia. We thank you for the privilege that you've given so many of us to live in this wonderful state. And I thank you for these your servants, whom you called to serve you and serve the people that they represent. I pray that you would endow them with wisdom and knowledge from above. For Father, we know worldly wisdom is not very effective or bring a blessing, but godly wisdom that comes from above will give not only peace, but also a blessing. And so I pray upon the president and each senator who is here today and those who are visiting, that you would be real to them this day as you have been real to those 12 disciples 2,000 years ago. For we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much.
requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. All right, we're going on to morning orders. House will come to order.
If I could have the Senate's attention for a moment, I'd like to present to you the Doctor of the Day, and to do so, call upon the distinguished senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, today we are honored to have Dr. Keith Cobb as our Doctor of the Day. Dr. Cobb is an internal medicine physician and author from Savannah. He is affiliated with South Coast Medical Group and is a clinical assistant professor of medicine. His office serves as a teaching site for medical students and residents from Mercer University School of Medicine and the Medical College of Georgia. He is an author, as I mentioned earlier, and he has written the Grief Survival Handbook and several medical educational courses. Dr. Cobb has appeared on public radio and television stations across the country and in Europe, and has been a guest blogger on numerous websites, including the Huffington Post and mariaschreiber.com. His book was recently picked as a top read by World Magazine. Help me, if you will, in welcoming Dr. Cobb as our Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Senator. I'm in room 232, and I'm pleased to be a part of the Medical Association of Georgia's Doctor of the Day program. And if there's something I can do for you while you are here, I'm here today and tomorrow. And I thank you for your service to the state of Georgia. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize the senator from the 35th to present to the Senate a very, very special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I've traveled the world, but it's one place I love going, and that is to, I call it the motherland of Africa. And today we have Her Excellency Thandi Latubi Gabashi. And she was born in Goutville, KwaZulu Natal, and she went into exile in the late 1960s and played an active role in apartheid organizations here in the United States, including the American Committee on Africa, that's based in New York City, the Washington Office on Africa, and the Congress of the United States. She matriculated in in Nada Seminary in the year of 1954. She graduated in general nursing and midwifery at McCord Hospital, South Africa in the year 1958. She graduated in anatomy and philosophy, obtaining a Bachelor of Science degree at Natal University in the year of 1962. She has many, many accolades. She became a political exile in the United States of America and worked at Southwest Community Hospital in Atlanta in God's country, the 35th District. But that was in the year 1969. She also returned back to Africa, South Africa, in October 1996. She was appointed South African ambassador in the Caribbean, in Venezuela, in Ecuador, and Colombia in the year 1998. She retired in the year 2002 and settled in Durban, South Africa. In 1996, though, she received the Freedom of Atlanta Award from our then mayor. She is currently the South African ambassador of Venezuela, Latin America, and the West Indies. Without further ado, I'd like to present a real queen, part of living history. Her father won the Nobel Peace Prize when he was the chief of the Zulu tribe. So without further ado, I welcome you.
Thank you. Should I first introduce my people?
No, just say hello.
Hello. I'm very happy to be here this morning. I'm back home. This is my second home. I was exiled here for 26 years before I could return to South Africa in 1996. So for me, this is a real huge welcome, and I'm very happy. I'm with my family, 4 children repatriated to South Africa, but my 4th child was already married in Atlanta and had grandchildren who were in school. So she hasn't yet returned to South Africa. Thank you.
Okay, can I give her this outstanding honorary? She spent 26 years here in Atlanta before she returned back to South Africa. So it is with honor that I present this honorary Georgia Citizen Award to you for coming back to your second home. And may this honorary citizen be afforded every courtesy as a goodwill ambassador from Georgia in her travels to other states, to nations beyond the borders of the United States of America, or wherever she may hereafter travel or reside. It's with honor that I present you with this award. All right.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, let's go there.
We have other members in the audience that are here with her.
All right. Thank you so much.
Watch your step now. We're going to get down there and let you get down front and center.
Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? I think the senator from the 39th is wishing to rise. He will be recognized. Senator from the 39th, you're recognized for a point of personal privilege.
Yes, sir. You're a good man. You recognize when I'm in trouble. Mr. President, members of the Senate, I understand the art of politics. There's a philosopher that once said, the politics is war by another means. And I understand when you go to war in politics, sometimes the thing you do is defame the opposition. You denigrate them, you debase them, and it's easier to what? Beat them. I understand that. But you at least should what? Tell the truth. You all at least ought to tell the truth when you come to this well and not distort the facts. You know, I remember what Adlai Stevenson said to Richard Nixon. You stop telling lies about me and I'll stop telling the truth about you. So I'm going to tell some truth this morning about Fulton County. And I know the barrage of bad anti-Fulton County bills is a-coming. House Bill 170 is on the floor today, which would double the homestead exemption and cap the millage rate in Fulton County. It's designed to starve the baby, cut services, and make sure that people can't get the services they need in Fulton County. Redistricting bill is coming over. Milton County is already here. And there's so many of them, I can't remember all of them. I should have brought a list. But the senator from the 56 came to this well yesterday and said that Fulton County is corrupt, it's dysfunctional, inefficient. I beg to differ. But don't depend on me. I'm biased. I admit it, I'm biased. But I'm just going to refer to the local newspaper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, on, and this is small font and I'm nearsighted, so excuse me, on Thursday, January 12th of 2012, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution wrote an article which was titled, "Fulton Not Quite as Bloated as Detractors Claim." It said, in fact, if the district, that is the unincorporated parts of Fulton County, were a city, it would be among the most tightly run in the state for its population. I'll repeat that for effect. In fact, if the district were a city, it would be among the most tightly run in the state for its population. It went on to say, and I quote, "Budget figures show that spending for unincorporated services has fallen from $117 million in 2005 to a tentative $45 million in 2012. Employees have dropped from 1,109 to 377. It looks like the Special Services District has been reduced an appropriate amount, if not more than an appropriate amount," said Georgia State University Public Finance Director Michael Bell, himself a former Chief Financial Officer for DeKalb County in Atlanta, who reviewed the data with the AJC. Based on county data, 2005 population estimates and the 2010 census, which put the unincorporated areas south at 87,000 people, Fulton County spent $481 per person in the special district in 2005 and $12,000 less per resident last year. New Year's working budget would have the county spending $515,000 per resident, but that's still less than 6 years ago when adjusted for inflation. Even John Sherman of the Fulton County Taxpayer Foundation, which many of you are familiar with, said he's going to stop saying that the county hasn't cut back to adjust for the new cities. Several cities with populations comparable to South Fulton spend more per capita than the services district and have more employees. For example, Roswell in North Fulton County has 604 full-time and 225 part-time employees and spends more than $720 per resident under its current budget. More than Fulton County does. So I say that to say, when you come to the microphone, when you come to the well, have your biases and your dislikes. That's your business. But when you come to the well, at least have the facts right. Don't distort. Don't debase. I mean, you got the votes. You got the votes. Don't twist the knife. No reason to tell lies. I wish the senator from the 56 had as much to say about the Department of Transportation and the corruption and dysfunction and the inefficiency there. But I've never heard him come to this well one time and say anything about DOT. And he's not going to. He's not going to tell the truth about them. But I wish he would tell the truth about his home county. Mr. President, I yield the well.
You have a consent calendar of privilege resolutions that are before you. Is there objection to the consent calendar of privilege resolutions? Chair hears none, and the privilege resolutions are therefore adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed on any of the local bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed in the Secretary's office.
Is there objection to agree into the report of Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations, which failed to pass the bill? Chair hears none. Report of Committee is agreed to. Question is on the local consent calendar. All of those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the local consent calendar, the yeas are 49 and the nays are 0, and all the bills on the local consent calendar are therefore adopted. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 265 by Senator Stone of the 23rd. A resolution congratulating the Augusta Christian Schools varsity competition cheerleading team on winning the 2012 South Carolina Independent School Association Class AAA State Competition Cheerleading Championship and for other purposes. Whereas through perseverance, countless hours of practice, and unyielding determination, the Augusta Christian Schools varsity competition cheerleading team earned the top ranking in this state with their victorious outing at the SCISA Class AAA State Championship. And whereas 4 members of the team were named to the FCC All-Star Team and 2 members were named to the SCISA All-State Cheer Team, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body congratulate the Augusta Christian Schools varsity competition cheerleading team on winning the 2012 South Carolina Independent School Association Class AAA State Competition Cheerleading Championship and extend their sincerest best wishes for future success. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions? Chair hears none. The resolutions are adopted. To speak to the resolutions and recognize these very special Georgians, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, senators. I'm honored today to have here visiting students and faculty from Augusta Christian in Martinez, and I'm very honored to honor them for two very distinct awards. First of all, we have the football team and the varsity cheerleader team here today with us, and both won top honors in their classes. The South Carolina Independent School Association AAA class. Now, the Augusta Christian has long been known for its academic excellence, but they have proven that they have well-rounded students who can excel in all areas. And I'd just like to introduce the cheerleading coach, Ms. Jamie Mackey, and the football coach, Coach Keith Walton, to introduce the students that are up here with us today. And I'd also like to recognize all the Augusta Christian students here who are in the gallery. If you would, please stand. Coach Mackey.
Just want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity and the honor of being here. As a little girl, I've driven by this building many, many, many times, and it's awesome to actually be in here and recognizing these wonderful young ladies that I brought with me, beginning with our senior captain, Tiaja Robinson, and our under captains, Latice Bouchier, Carolyn Horde, and Hannah Hopkins. Thank you again.
My name is Keith Walton. I'm the head football coach at Augusta Christian, and we would like to again thank you for allowing us this opportunity. On the floor with me today, I have my head assistant coach, Charles Cooper. One of our two captains on the floor today is Tyler Robertson, Matt Hersworm, and then our defensive coordinator, Nat Eilert. Thank you so much.
Let's go down and pose for a picture, okay? Moving on to the general calendar, the Secretary will read Senate Bill 12.
Senate Bill 12 by Senator McCoon of the 29th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 51 of the OCGA relating to general provisions for torts so as to limit liability for governing authority of a school that enters into a recreational joint use agreement with a public or private entity and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Senator McCoon, Chairman. The Senate Judiciary Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 12, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 51 of the OCGA relating to general provisions for torts so as to limit liability for a governing authority of a school that enters into a recreational joint use agreement with a public or private entity and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to present the bill. Please give the senator your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my privilege today to present to the Senate Senate Bill 12. This measure deals with a very serious problem in our state, the problem of childhood obesity. We have in Georgia a 13.5% obesity rate among our population of children. It equates to over 359,000 Georgians who will grow up with a higher rate of high cholesterol, hypertension, a wide array of health-related problems. And Senate Bill 12 seeks to offer a mechanism to provide opportunities for children to be more physically active after school. In a number of communities around our state, particularly rural communities that don't always have freestanding facilities for after-school activities, typically the only facilities that are available are facilities operated by the local school district. These facilities are not really available in many areas because the school districts have reasonable concerns related to liability that could attach in the event of an accident or an untoward event during an after-school activity sponsored by a not-for-profit group. So what Senate Bill 12 does, very simply, is it provides a mechanism for the school district to enter into a joint use agreement with a not-for-profit organization. That not-for-profit organization purchases general liability insurance coverage to protect the children that would participate in the activity. And in exchange, the school district receives limited protection from liability themselves. And the goal of this legislation, which has been championed by the American Heart Association, not only here in Georgia but around the country, is to provide the mechanism that will allow these facilities to be used so they're not sitting idle after school, so that children have the opportunity to get physically active and participate in constructive after-school activities so that they lead healthier, happier lives. With that, Mr. President, I'd be glad to answer any questions or yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, you.
Yes, sir.
On page number 2 of your substitute, it lists an exception here. Code section 511233 shall not apply to claims for civil damages arising from the use of school facilities pursuant to a recreational joint use agreement. What is that part of the code? We don't have it listed here in this bill, do we?
Thank you for your question. That code section refers to the comparative negligence statute and the apportionment of liability. And the reason that is in there is we would not want liability apportioned in such a way that recovery could not be had on the insurance policy.
Further yield?
Yes, sir.
So gross negligence, actually, you've got that as an exception in your bill. And then the other code section you just referenced to me applies to that.
That's right, to the apportionment of liability as between the school district and the not-for-profit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No further questions.
Thank you,
Senator.
Mr. President.
Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agreed. The report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there objections? Chair hears none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on. Pass the bill. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. And this bill, having records of constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read Senate Bill 104.
Senate Bill 104 by Senators Ginn of the 47th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to the Department of Community Affairs so as to revise the minimum elements addressed and included in comprehensive plans of local governments and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations recommends that this bill do pass. Senator Ligon of the 3rd, Chairman. Through with the order, Mr. President.
I'd like to recognize on the floor a good friend of mine, Caesar Mitchell, who's over here, President of the City Council of Atlanta. Let's give him a warm welcome. Glad to have him visiting with us today in the Senate. Great honor. Thank you. Chair recognizes Senator from the 47th present the bill. Thank you for using the side aisle, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. They always say if at first you don't succeed, try again. Well, 2 years ago, I brought up Senate Bill 86, and it was a good bill that helped a lot of our local governments, and as you know, our partners in the state. When we look at Senate Bill 104, it does basically 3 things that I'm proud to say that working together with the governor, Commissioner Mike Beatty, and Mike Beatty was able to put together a task force. They took action to clean up a lot of the planning requirements that are put upon the local governments around the state. When we finally address what has to be done in statute to complete the mission, Senate Bill 104 eliminates some of the requirements that are put upon in a plan. When we look, it removes a requirement that the regional commissions have to take action to say yay or nay on an event that a local government has to vote yes or no on. And finally, it removes I guess I'll say a waiting period of 60 days on implementation of a plan. It makes that plan move much faster. I will ask for your favorable consideration, and Mr. President, if there are no questions, I will yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd for a question.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Senator, this is a process, and we've had many processes in the last 30 years whereby the federal government would occasionally penalize us if we didn't follow certain rules and guidelines. In turn, many times the states implemented legislation where they could reward or punish local governments with funding. Is that right?
If you say so, I'm sure you know which you speak.
All right. Thank you. Do you yield further?
Yes.
In being familiar with this particular planning process, the way the bill is written, it is hard to tell what is current law. I can tell what's being struck as far as some of the planning elements, but it is hard to see what is current law and what is not.
The only things that you'll notice on the legislation is there's a couple things that are struck on the bill, lines 21 through 24 and lines 69 through 72, and in section 2, the entirety of Code Section 50-8-36 is struck, and I'll be glad to share with you Section G, which is struck in its entirety.
Yes,
and I have that language if you'd like to review it.
Further yield, Senator. Yes, I have that listed here as, what is it? Let me just say this. There are portions of the bill, for instance, that say the commissioner in his mind or whatever his decision for whatever reason may be, can recommend to the board that a government be a certified government are not certified government. Is that current law?
Currently, when we talk about local governments, we're talking about a qualified local government. That's a term that I'd love to do away with in statute. Yeah. This does not remove that section, but it's not an at-will or a whim that's done. There's certain criteria that local governments do to keep their qualified local government status. And on this, what we're trying to do is work with our partners in local government to make sure they don't lose that qualified local government status.
Are we further yield, Senator?
Yes, sir.
And please interpret these questions. I don't know whether these questions are friendly or not, because I'm missing part of the code. I've actually sent for it to try to look at it to see. What I'm asking is, does it give the Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs any more leeway or room, flexibility, to make decisions on local funding as it relates to a qualified government or not?
Well, when I look at the bill in its entirety, it's supported by the Commissioner for the Department of Community Affairs, supported by the Georgia Municipal Association, supported by the Association of County Commissioners, supported by the Governor's Office. And when you got all those folks working together, we've got a little bit better government. So
is it not? I'm sorry. Is it not true? Is it not true that that's one reason for asking the question, in that I don't have anything from the Georgia Municipal Association, the Association of County Commissioners, and I've not heard from Cobb County, and I'm concerned as to why they would not contact us all unless they thought it was a bill that wouldn't be controversial.
Thank you, Senator Thompson. Said one of the things that I'll be glad to do, and unfortunately our TV monitors aren't working, so maybe I can yell loud enough that one of those associates with one of those agencies will text you on your phone within the next few seconds if they can hear me now.
Senator, yield for one last question. Is it not true, Senator, had you told me the television cameras weren't on in the beginning, this could have been a lot shorter. I'm just kidding.
We'll stay here as long as you want to.
No, sir. I'm waiting on the code section, but I am concerned about that.
Thank you, Senator. And just so you know, I will recognize Senator. It is a bipartisan bill. And it's one of those things that, as he told me, he had a group that pulled him out in the hall a few days back. He's still on my support and one of my co-sponsors.
Senator from the 39th, do you wish to speak to the bill or you have a question? You're recognized for a question if the senator will yield.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions for my edification. I'm looking on the first page, lines 21 through 24. Is it the intent of the bill is to?
I'm sorry. Can you speak up?
I most certainly can. I always have. Is it the intent of the bill to eliminate those elements from a locality doing a comprehensive plan that is housing, human services, natural resources, the environment, vital areas, historic and cultural resources, infrastructure and land use other than zoning, recreation, transportation, economic development?
The intent of the bill is to remove that from statute. As you know, we have well over 500 municipalities and the number of counties throughout the state, but the purpose is to put the language in statute with what's in practice with each of those communities, big or small. Now, there's a lot of times where those communities need to address each of those issues, some more particular than others, but as the Commissioner from the Department of Community Affairs put it, this puts their language and our actions closer together.
Will the senator further yield?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that those elements, those parts that are being eliminated, do you think they're important?
Very much so. But at the same token, I know that they're important for in different ways for different local governments. And when we look at the local governments, this allows for the flexibility. One of the things that you might remember, Senator Senator, is that we're trying to match the plan with the size of the community. And some of those communities, they would not be appropriate. So without just putting in there that you acknowledge each one of those items, that's what we're trying to do with this, is clean up the statute.
Will the Senator further yield?
Yes, sir.
Would you consider this a major change to the statute?
Well, what this does is not a major change per se, but what it does is it puts in statute practicality of what we're doing with those plans and makes it easier for the taxpayers of the state so that they can be in compliance with that in their local communities. One of the things that this bill is also supported by all of the regional commissions in the state. There's a vast number of folks across the state that have signed on to this, and an awful lot of them that worked on that task force over the last 24 months.
Will the Senator yield for one final question?
Be glad to.
I'm just, I've been involved as a citizen before becoming elected in comprehensive planning down to the neighborhood level, and I'm just trying to figure out how would this work in any municipality, just the process by which one would go from A to Z in creating a comprehensive plan to submit to the regional entity.
Senator Fort, you have years of experience over me in the Senate and the state government. My expertise comes from the local government. As you know, the planning process for most local governments was formalized in the late 80s. When we moved forward, we all had a grandiose ideas of exactly what should be in those plans. What we're trying to do is to match the plans with what's actually being done in those communities. There's a lot of times where those actions that are put into a plan are merely set on a shelf to meet a government checkoff. What we want to do is we want to make those plans appropriate for the size of the community and be implemented in a daily activity of those communities.
No further questions, Senator.
I yield the will.
Senator from the 33rd, your light's on. You wish to speak?
He's yielded.
Yeah. Chair recognizes Senator from the 33rd to speak to the bill.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, as the Senator said earlier, in the 1980s, we were instructed to do several things. One was from the federal government under a threat of embargoing our transportation funds, which was around, at that time, $700 million. At another time, concerning clean air. And they did. They held it up until we complied to the non-attainment area standards. Now, these processes that came down then had to do with another issue with solid waste, which I think came under maybe natural resources. We had to get ours down by 25% in 3 or 4 years to be able to continue to qualify for funds dealing with activities by that department. The process and planning bills came at that time to try to help local governments cooperate with each other so that they could do things in this new regionalization area that they're talking about. I think it's necessary, and I think it's one of those things in a perfect world you might not want to do, but I do see some things in the code, and the Senator's right. They do strike some of these things that the department may make decisions over or get into because of the to try to get down on the requirements and as far as what they do when they make decisions. But I still see in there where the commissioner does this, the commissioner does that, or the commissioner makes this decision. What worries me, or a majority of the board and the commissioner, what worries me is that's a big section of the law. There's a lot of money involved. I just want to make sure that it's a decision I want the Commissioner of Community Affairs to be able to make for my government as it relates to giving funds or withholding funds, because I don't know that they've always agreed. Now, the state needs some powers, and I understand that. But I have not heard from GMA. I just got a note from one that said he's waiting in the hall to see you. I have not got anything from ACCG unless my mail's not doing its job. But I would say I want to have a little further clarification about what it does to local governments and what powers it takes from local governments in the way of making decisions over stopping your funding or increasing it. So, and it could be, that's the reason I asked senators if there were any further changes or if this was current law. Because when you get these bills, you say section so is revised by inserting, is revised by omitting, by striking, is revised by replacing with a new subsection. There are 3 or 4 different ways other than underlying words that the code can be changed. And I just want to make sure, I don't think the senator having his background from for any reason whatsoever would do something that he thought was harmful to local governments. I want to make sure for my own satisfaction, the citizens in my district, that it doesn't give the Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs more powers now than he had before this bill passed, because I haven't always seen the best decisions come out of that department, to be honest with you. So that's my small objection. I don't know if we can ask the Lieutenant Governor, the President, to suspend for about 5 or 10 minutes so we can talk. This is a big measure. I just want to make sure we're not doing something that we don't know we're doing. If you think that doesn't happen down here, just hang in there in that seat and you'll see it at some point in time in the future. I'll yield. I don't think there's any question there. There you? All right.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 51st for a question.
Will the senator yield?
I do.
Sir, isn't it true that the Georgia Planning Act of 1989 was the legislation that created these requirements?
I think you're right.
And is it not true that these comp plans were required by this statute in order for the state to come up with its own future comprehensive plan for growth?
I think that was the idea at the time, yes.
Will you further yield?
I do.
Isn't it also true that the state of Georgia has never come up with their comprehensive plan for future growth for the state of Georgia?
I would think probably the senator knows from what he speaks, because he's had a lot of experience with local governments and planning and transportation and everything else.
Thank you. I support the bill, and I think it's a good measure for local government, and it'll streamline the process, and it allows local governments to continue to plan for the future. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator. I hope it does just that. My question is only one. We see where we're striking things that may be unnecessary today or cumbersome. I just want to make sure that it doesn't give the Commissioner of Community Affairs or the department or the board more power than it currently has. Because if federal funds attached to this that we receive, you're talking about several $100 million. And if the State Department has more power each year, then that's something you don't want to do. And I'll tell you, this is the way they gain it. They stop your money or increase it and hold a hammer over your head. And sometimes I'm for that. You got to. Some local governments just won't move. But I want to know if it gives the department more powers. And that's my only question, actually. It looks like it's reducing some of the clutter. So thank you. I'll yield well and return to my seat. And hopefully I'll be recognized to ask if we could just have 2 or 3 minutes. I won't hold the Senate up much because I got things to do too. I promise you.
You wish to be recognized? Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd.
I don't know if you heard my comment or not. I was requesting.
What purpose do you rise?
I was inquiry.
Point of inquiry.
Let me ask if we, without objection, if we could suspend for 3 to 5 minutes, just so I can get an answer on the bills and the powers of the Department of Community Affairs, and I don't think it'll take any longer than that. But it is an important piece of legislation, and I think it deserves the Senate to know. It would serve the Senate well to know before it left here if it did what I was questioning.
All right, you and Senator from the 47th approach, suspend for a moment. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree on the report of committee which favor pass the bill? Chair hears none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on. Pass the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary like the machine. Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd. What purpose you rise?
Inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that I've been asked by several members if we had our questions answered? If that is true, we have had our questions answered concerning the bill as it relates to the GMA.
Yes, indeed. That's the information by which I have received as well. What purpose, Senator from the 47th, rise?
Point on
Parliamentary inquiry. State your inquiry.
Senator from the 33rd, would you recognize what his vote is on this? Is there a green light on his desk, sir?
Yeah, I don't know that qualifies for a parliamentary inquiry, but
That's what I was doing. That's what I was doing too.
On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 4. And this bill, MC Rex Constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read Senate Resolution 113.
Senate Resolution 113 by Senator Jackson of the 24th and others. A resolution authorizing the granting of restrictive easements, non-exclusive easements for operation and maintenance of facilities, utilities, and ingress and egress in, on, over, under, upon, across, or through property owned by the state of Georgia in Beryl, Carroll, Chatham, Cobb, Crisp, Dade, Dawson, DeKalb, Forsyth, Hall, Henry, Lawrence, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on State Institutions and Property recommends that this resolution do pass by substitute. Senator Albert of the 56th, Chairman. The Senate State Institutions and Property Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 113. A resolution authorizing and granting the restrictive easements, non-exclusive easements for operation and maintenance of facilities, utilities, ingress and egress in, on, over, under, and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 24th.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I don't think there's going to be a lot of gathering down here at the altar on this one or gnashing of teeth. This is simple. It's a simple proposition. Something's got to be done. It's done from time to time. And Senate Resolution 113, committee substitute, very simply allows the state of Georgia through the Department of Property and the Property Area Commission. And it simply has 16 pieces of property that is required from time to time to allow utilities to cross over it. In most cases, it's in the benefit of the state. There's no money involved with that, and it's something that they have to do from time to time, and it's just simply a thing we've got to do, and it's good. It's, like I said, it's 16 counties involved, 12 utility companies, and it allows them a restricted easement across those properties. And that's basically what it does. If there's any question, I'll be glad to try to answer them. If not, I yield the floor.
There are no questions, Senator.
Thank you very much.
Questions on the adoption of committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Grant report of committee which favor pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Or the objection? Chair is none. Main question order. Shall this bill resolution now pass? Question on the resolution. All those in favor vote aye. Those no. Secretary unlock the machine. Secretary will read SR 201, last bill of the day.
Senate Resolution 201 by Senator Harbison of the 15th and others. A resolution requesting that the Department of the Army carefully consider the socioeconomic impact of programmatic environmental assessment for Army 2020 force restructuring will have on Fort Benning, Georgia, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security recommends that this resolution do pass. Senator Harbison of the 15th, Chairman. Through with the order, Mr. President.
On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. This resolution, therefore, receiving reference to the Constitution, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator for the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my privilege to bring to you today Senate Resolution 201, authored by the senator from the 15th. Can't be with us today because he's honoring a fallen soldier back in Columbus. Both the senator from the 15th and I have spoken to this issue from the well on points of personal privilege. What we are simply asking the Senate to do with Senate Resolution 201 is to urge the Department of the Army to carefully consider the socioeconomic impact of the programmatic environmental assessment for Army 2020 force restructuring that could result in a loss of 7,100 civilian and military personnel from Fort Benning military installation that would jeopardize over $3.5 billion in infrastructure that has been put in place that could result in a loss of over 17,000 in population, as well as a tremendous decrease in regional income and regional non-farm employment. And I would urge the Senate's adoption of this resolution so that we can send it expeditiously to the Department of the Army while this public comment period is still open. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well unless there are any questions.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree in the Report of Committee which favor pass the bill. Chairs none. The Report of Committee is agreed to. Question on the pass the bill. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the passage of the resolution, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0, and this resolution, therefore receiving requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes the distinguished majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until February 22nd at 10 a.m. Excuse me, 9 a.m. 9 a.m.
9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Secretary will read the announcements.
Rules will meet upon adjournment in 450 cap. Insurance and Labor will meet at 1 p.m. in 450 cap. Public Safety Subcommittee on Law Enforcement will meet at 1 p.m. in 125 cap. Natural Resources and Environment at 2 p.m. is canceled. Education and Youth is at 2 p.m. in 307 CLOB. Finance at 2 p.m. in the MES. Banking and Financial Institutions at 4 p.m. is canceled. Veterans and Military Affairs will meet at 4:30 p.m. in 125 cap. And Urban Affairs will meet tomorrow at 8 a.m. in 125 cap.
Any senator wishing to rise or announcement? Chair recognizes Senator 36 for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have on your desks an invitation to a luncheon meeting. The Working Families Caucus will meet today to hear an update on key budget challenges, health funding, education funding, juvenile justice reform funding. You're welcome to come share lunch with us at noon in 406 CLOB. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 22nd on an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I want to once again draw your attention to the flyer that's on your desk, recognizing Engineers Day at the State Capitol on tomorrow from 8 a.m. until 1 in rooms 216 and 230. We'll be joined tomorrow by members from Georgia Tech, their student engineering team, as well as industry representatives of engineering companies who have done significant projects here in the state of Georgia. So I look forward to you being a part of that on tomorrow. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 55th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I'd like to remind the members of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus of the Heritage Dinner tonight at the Marriott Marquis, reception at 5 o'clock and dinner at 6. And any other member of this Senate that would like to come, tickets are $125 and we'd love to have you come and have dinner with us. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 13th, Chairman of the Banking Committee. Please give him your attention on an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a little a day early, but I do want to announce that we will have a banking and finance meeting tomorrow immediately after adjournment. It'll be a very short meeting, but please go ahead and make your plans to attend. Thank you.
Please be there for the chairman, if you would. The majority leader has moved that we stand adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.